This is a story that came out February 9th, 2018 on CTV W5 out of Canada. Canada's opioid crisis spreading to smaller communities that struggle to cope. And it's a short documentary here that I'm going to play for you.
CTV's W5. The fentanyl menace running rampant in Canada's big cities.
It's like dumping a wheelbarrow full of morphine pills in your mouth all at once.
Now reaches into Canada's smaller communities.
We are losing a lot of people to overdose because they don't know what they're using.
An overwhelming and deadly crisis.
It's hard to be an addict in this town. It's hard to be young in this town.
Ruined lives and broken families.
I've done drugs crying because I don't want to do them.
Left in the wake of street drugs, laced with death.
I didn't want to die, but I knew there was a chance I would.
A W5 Vice Canada special investigation.
I've watched people drop and get right back up and do it again.
I've overdosed twice in 36 hours.
As the unstoppable advance of a deadly drug.
He literally opened his eyes and said, "Did I OD again?"
Slowly takes over the streets.
You don't think it's going to happen to you?
And young victims plead for help.
We know what we're doing is harmful to ourselves and the people we love, but we can't stop.
Here is Kevin Newman.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. Since it first started showing up in the big cities of Alberta and BC, hooking and killing people, W5 has been reporting on the disastrous spread of illicit fentanyl. And now that it's starting to claim lives in Canada's smaller cities, it really has become a national epidemic. Well, in this next full edition documentary, W5 has combined resources with Vice Canada for this intimate portrait of the people and the neighborhoods being impacted. In places like Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, where the numbing qualities of fentanyl and opioids are helping to dull the pain of economic decline and also accelerating it.
We're really an anomaly or an oxymoron, if you wish. We're right in the middle of the world, dead center of Canada almost. We're right on the border to the United States. And the community put a lot of energy and effort into the development of the steel mill, which is all well and good. And it made us relatively prosperous. As far as the economics are concerned, it wasn't so good.
Way up in that tree, there's a little mountain.
But at the end of the day, it did develop us into a steel industry town.
It don't live in me. I'm still a vagrant.
Which was really great during the 1960s.
This was a house with a hardwood floor.
When they needed steel pumped out, we were just able to really have at her.
The steel trapdoor.
The Sioux didn't hedge its bets well enough. And when the steel industry began to fail, we didn't have enough things for people to do. The layoffs became pretty high. We started to get a brain drain going on, and they would be driven to drug use to fill that place in their life. And what we're seeing with this opium crisis that we have right now, we're just seeing the result of a really good investment in poor social management.
Don't be like that. Don't be like that.
All of those things come together to put us in the place where we are now.
They ain't good enough to know your name.
Not that they're irreversible. Problem is there's not enough other opportunities for people.
I work at the steel plant in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. I'm a material handler, slab caster in DSBC, where they do the cold rolls, make slabs for plate. It's a steel town, definitely. big hockey tout. The steel plant had 13,000 people here at one time to do the modernization, cost cutting, and high costs of supplies. They are, like anyone else, struggling to hang on. It used to be it still is a nice town, don't get me wrong, but I remember when it was a lot bigger, more prosperous. It had a lot of different shopping availabilities. They're getting limited now. Of course, Sears just closed. Used to love camping and all that stuff. The recent setbacks with the family and everything over the years, we haven't been able to do that. Now they're trying to quit smoking. I quit for 10 years. My boss is fairly understanding. It don't take long for news to travel fast.
You're a big birdie too, looking in the mirror. You could learn a lot from a bird. He's in this cage, can't really do much, but he's still having fun. Look at him.
My son Josh, his future is unknown. It's unwritten. He can do anything, it's endless. But until he gets this battle over, if it ever ends, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
We're not a little nowhere town per se, but we're not a big town either. So there's not a lot of stuff to do. There's the boardwalk, but most people go to the boardwalk to do drugs or drink. I've been doing drugs since maybe 13 or 14. At my age, I'm not even 20 years old yet, and I can count on two hands the amount of people I've known that have died either by suicide or by overdose. Like, it's fun at first when you're like, oh, I'm rebelling and I'm not getting caught. Like, I feel so cool. And then it's almost like a cry for help where you're like, I want to get caught. Like, why isn't anyone noticing me doing all this bad stuff? Like, am I just unloved? Like, does my family not care that I'm like falling apart?
I doubt his survival, his ability to function without us, the help that they need. I don't know how much there actually is for the drugs and the mental health.
Since my addiction, things involving my addiction have led me to being hospitalized. I can't even give you a number. Over 50. I'm known at the hospital. And they roll their eyes when I come in, and it makes me feel like I'm a disease.
So this is the Neighborhood Resource Center. This is predominantly where I do a lot of my outreach from, just because it's accessible. It's in a location where a lot of my clients are living. Harm reduction to me is making sure that you as a person is okay, whether you use drugs or not. And if you do use drugs, we want to make sure that you're causing the least amount of harm as possible. We have more people that are, approaching my program, but approaching all of the network of agencies that I work alongside, that are identifying overdoses, that they have more people that they love, that they care about, who are overdosing, who are maybe not dying, but who are experiencing overdoses, and it's causing immense amounts of trauma.
I feel one of the biggest issues in Sault Ste. Marie is the level of poverty that we have, which is attached to food security, which is attached to housing issues, which is attached to education issues. It just becomes self-perpetuating. You create a machine and a very powerful engine to keep driving it. Poverty can be that machine.
I'm Terry Nicholson. I'm the concurrent disorders counselor for inpatients here at Sioux Area Hospital. So I'm the addictions counselor for all the units in the hospital. I am the only one within the hospital. Fentanyl is a big problem here in the Sioux right now. We are in the middle of a crisis situation. We are losing a lot of people to overdose because they don't know what they're using, because the drug is synthetic. It's not coming from pharmacies or from doctors. People are making it in various places. They're getting it from outside of the city, from drug dealers without integrity. There is no clean heroin in town. They haven't tested any in the last however long. That's been clean. It's all fentanyl laced, and it's all synthetic fentanyl.
Used to be morphine, codeine, prescription pills, OxyContin, all things that they're really strong, but you're talking milligrams. With fentanyl, you're talking micrograms. So if someone switching from morphine pills to fentanyl, it's like dumping a wheelbarrow full of morphine pills in your mouth all at once by taking one dose of fentanyl.
Sue is in an overdose crisis. We went from having 4 or 5 overdoses come to emerge in a month. In the month of September, we had 40. In a 10-day span, we had 22. In one evening, we had 8.
November 2nd, we had 8 overdoses in one night. So we're thinking that night it was sort of a shared batch or something that was a lot stronger than people were used to.
So that's 8 people that are overdosing. That doesn't include the people that are in the community, not coming to hospital, who are using the Narcan that's given to them, and then the overdose is reversed and they're not coming for help after.
I've been doing this for 24 years, and we just started carrying Narcan. It's an opiate antagonist. So what it does is it attaches to the same receptors in your brain that the opium does, any opiate family, and then it essentially blocks the action of that drug. It's free to get now. I think it's a direct response. It's the first thing we can do to stop all these overdoses, especially the fatal ones, from happening.
We're doing the best with what we have. We're doing the best with the services that the government is providing. There is no one in this field in addictions in Sault Ste. Marie that I know that isn't going above and beyond, staying late, working through lunches, and trying to get to the people. We are underserviced.
We actually were the first integrated service, so police, fire, and EMS, that we have a psychologist-driven peer support program. So when there are serious calls, that crew is notified.
I see people die every week.
Young addicts on borrowed time.
My parents, they knew I was doing drugs before I told them.
As helpless families struggle to cope.
He's a good kid. He means well. There's some things he can't control.
When W5 continues.
My parents, they knew I was doing drugs before I told them. They just tried to do a blind eye until I came out and they were like, we had a feeling.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little tired and cranky. I didn't know. I was waiting for the call. He was supposed to come home last night. He didn't. And then I guess he told Mom where he was, who he was with, but I didn't know where exactly he was because I didn't end up dropping him off where he said he was going. It's a common thing for us to lose track of him pretty easy. There's good days and bad days, and sometimes he, he just forgets that there's other people that worry about him. Makes it hard for everybody.
Your dad's here worrying about you, wondering where you are when you told him that you'd catch the bus or walk home. You do this all the time, and you have meds to take.
Stop worrying about me. I'm not out doing bad things at this point.
Joshua.
I'm just trying to live my life.
Yeah, we'd like to live ours too.
So don't be concerned in worrying about me when you have your own things to worry about.
So what did you do last night? Drink?
Yeah, I smoked weed.
That's all?
Yeah, I know antibiotics won't go with alcohol.
I haven't been taking them either. You haven't been taking them. Being a bit of a smart ass. And then want something to eat.
We can get some kind of hints. The dogs start letting us know when it's bad because they'll start, even if we're not having a conversation and nothing's going wrong, he'll be in his room, and when things start to bother him or wherever he is, the basement or whatever, the dogs will get agitated first.
This is typical of Joshua. Joshua in the past has went out, said he's going out, and then don't come home for days.
He's a good kid. He means well. It's like I said, there's some things he can't control.
Your plate's out here. Joshua, did you hear me? It's very hard on families. Tears families apart. struggle daily to try to keep this family together.
I want to sleep until I feel better. There's no pain. There's no hurt when you're asleep. Sometimes, like, you wish, like, this is gonna sound so dark and morbid, but sometimes you're like, boy, I wish I could just go in a coma for 3 months because I need a break from life. When you're asleep, you can't be depressed, you can't be sad, you can't be anything. When you're asleep, it's almost like you're dead without having the commitment to it. I wish I could just, like, mentally not be present for a while because it's getting overwhelming.
Break it.
What happens? Might as well get that in you. Rough thing. Had to go to jail. I was doing cocaine and smoking crack, and it cost me thousands and thousands of dollars within a week. And you Jones over it, and it's just a mess. Then you don't do anything. When crystal meth, you do a toke and you just clean. You clean and clean it, so you just stay awake and go to work on it. And you don't feel like drinking, you don't feel like doing anything.
It makes it better. Like, it makes you think faster, you move faster.
Everything's better. Your cleaning's better.
Clear.
Like, I shoot needles. I did. I still do once in a while. I don't know what's in it. And I look at the spoon and I see that there's cloudiness in there. And I do it anyway because I'm honest and I need it because I'm in pain. I could drop instantly. And your brain at that time, you just don't care. I've watched people drop and get right back up and do it again. I mean, you don't realize that you just peed your pants and you just fell down. And no, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll just do it right here, do it again.
So it was during that spike in September, and I heard the same address go twice within a 12-hour period. Same patient, same thing, smoking some fentanyl powder. And the third time, I actually went to the address, and it was sort of so routine for him and his girlfriend that was there when, we shook him and gave him oxygen and said, hey, wake up. He literally opened his eyes and said, oh shit, did I OD again? There's the people, the more left liberal siding that are into harm reduction, that are into more treatments, better employment, better housing. But the other side, generally the older population in the Sioux, literally they're thinking, let them die.
This town is all about drugs. There's nothing. The only people that are not on drugs are the older people that are working pretty much. So meth is the main thing going right now. Meth and heroin. It's all people want. I can get it like two houses down, 3 houses down, anywhere. One phone call. It's all over this place.
With like fentanyl, it's like it brings you down. Like your emotionally it just exhausts you, right?
The problem's not fentanyl in this town anyway. It's heroin. And the problem is they're cutting the heroin with the fentanyl. And people are dying from it. A lot of people are dying from it. My best friend just died from it. The drugs I started at first was just a couple lines here and there of cocaine. Then it led to the crack. And then shooting up. Now I do all of it. So it's like, and that's my own fault. I mean, you don't think it's going to happen to you. It's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to me. And it is. And I'm probably going to cry right now because it's just very scary. Sorry. Excuse me a second. Sorry. I told you I was going to cry.
When I was a kid, my grandmother said, never put your tongue on a doorknob. And I'm thinking to myself, why would that be bad? How could that be bad? So outside, bragging to my sisters and my cousins, I said, look, Grandma told me not to put my tongue on the doorknob. I did my tongue on the doorknob outside in the cold, and it stuck. I never would have done that, but she said don't do it. The rain seems to keep people at home.
Sold soul was a rusted wheel. Was a pack of dogs.
You want to see a torch set up?
I knew her. She got ill. Was It's a sickening time.
I understand physical addiction, but I can't wrap my head around they witness someone die the same stuff. Why they go out and do it?
When they take my body down to the mortuary, they take my bones apart. Final day.
Female unconscious, obvious overdose, paraphernalia around.
That's much better.
Yes, better.
That's it. That's all you do. Ouch.
Wow.
It really hurts. What? No, sure. You feel great. You can drive.
Lying in the deathbed, trying to go to sleep. The lights from the cracks that come slipping through the sheets. Oh, what a drag, the love we had. Some drops in the sea of regrets.
This is an area where a lot of college students live. Drive through N2's right.
Lifeboat captain.
You move your leg?
It's not
Your
there.
leg so we can open the door.
Driving me home. It's only fine.
Okay. Parents still need to know. Okay.
In other words, they don't know you're here.
How old are
They don't
you?
know what's going on.
No, they're not. How old are you?
Okay.
I'm 19.
Then we don't have to call your parents.
The dark embrace of fentanyl.
It's become so commonplace that people don't seem to see the danger behind it.
Irresistible and lethal.
Every time I use, I'm risking death.
When W5 continues.
Welcome back. And it is not a comfortable story that we are sharing with you this week, but it's what's happening in a growing number of communities outside of Canada's big cities. Caring and aware people who are addicted to fentanyl and other opioids, but who live in places where the resources to shake it aren't always available.
It's almost easy to come down on an addict because nobody's going to say anything, right? We're easy to judge. Like, we're so marginalized in this town that there almost seems to be a divide between people who use and people who don't use. I know I've flatlined 3 times in my life. I've overdosed twice in 36 hours. Fentanyl in this town is pretty much ubiquitous. It's almost like it's almost like a gateway drug here, because the first time use is what people are having troubles with. Like, I mean, they go out and the first thing they're doing is fentanyl. And I know when I was a kid, the first thing I did was weed. And I think that's a lot of it. It's become so commonplace that people don't seem to see the danger behind it. Drug of choice was anything opiate, fentanyl, heroin, anything I can get my hands on. It's one hit away. Like, I'm one hit away from dying, and I know that because I'm end stage, right? Like, I used opiates for 22 years every day. Let me put it this way. Like, most people have a normal coping mechanism, right? Like, I've done drugs crying because I don't want to do them. Like, I've had a piece of tinfoil in my hand and a straw in my mouth crying. The last thing I wanted to do was do drugs. And that's the nature of addiction, right? Is I'm doing them when I don't want to do them.
%87% of the stigma that people who use drugs deal with or face comes from healthcare workers. So if you just put that into context, if you're someone who uses drugs and you find yourself in a situation where you're overdosing, do you really want to go to an environment where you're going to be told, and I've heard some terrible things that my clients have been told, like, if we're saving them, we're not weeding out the herd. That's a shitty thing that, someone was told by a nurse. I don't challenge people on their views because I'm trying to be a jerk or I'm trying to be combative ultimately I'm doing it because I'm trying to get them to see a different perspective. There's this huge like dark side to obviously my job, but it's really challenging to be the only person who sees some of the things that you see and hear some of the things that you hear. It's really hard sometimes to know that people die and you know them better than their families. And I might never know their real name. And I think that that's, it's even just saying that makes me feel like so icky. Like I get goosebumps every time I think about it.
How long have you lived here?
8.5 years. Yeah. It doesn't feel that long though.
With fentanyl being what it is, I mean, I knew when I picked up last year and relapsed last year, I knew I was playing with death. Like I knew it. I didn't want to die, but I knew there was a chance I would. When I relapsed, I probably overdosed 4 times in a week. I met Desiree probably about 3 years ago. There's nobody in this world I would trust with anything to do with my using, my addiction, or anything like that more than her.
I mean, we've always been really close, right? And then you show up at, I mean, I remember showing up and thinking that, oh my God, like my best friend's gonna die.
I could feel my breathing going, you know, at times, and I could feel that, the nod kicking in, and
It's crazy. Every time that I saw you, there was just like a new thing, right? Like, make sure this happens, make sure this happens.
well, I was planning. I knew that if I kept going, and the plan was to keep going. And I knew it was eventual, you know. I know I'm an end stage addict. I know that every time I use, I'm risking death, right? Like, just
I don't really want to be that person, but we agreed to put it the opposite way.
Did we?
And now it's there upside down forever.
I thought we agreed to put it this way.
No.
Well, you should have said when I started. You know what I'm like.
Well,
I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do.
I know.
Yeah, it was exactly a year to the day. I had been going for a week. I started on November 19th. That was the day I relapsed. And I've been going for about a week, and what is it, 27th day? Yeah, I was a year today. I was dying in my room. And this whole thing just happened today, in a year. I don't know. That's gotta happen for a reason like that, right?
That's so crazy to think about, actually.
Yeah.
Feeling trapped and helpless.
Honestly, this town kills people, I feel like, slowly.
And the desperate need to escape.
He's tried hanging himself. He's tried drug overdoses to kill himself.
When W5 continues.
I grew up in the trailer park, so my dad's very hands-on. I grew up in a very hands-on community, working on trucks and stuff, building things. So when my art started taking into building into something different than actually like handmade things, like fixing up trucks with him and stuff, when that sort of stuff stopped, I feel like he was like, I lost a son. But like, I don't know, I'm still very hands-on with all my stuff. It's just not in the way that like he expected, I guess. He's worked here for us. Like, let's face it, he does it so he can support us. It's probably not the best working conditions he has to go through all the time. Honestly, this town kills people, I feel like, slowly. maybe that's just the perspective that I have. Maybe that's just because of the frame of mind I've been in for a long time. But like, there's nothing much here for me per se. So like, probably there's not much here for anyone unless you're into this sort of stuff. Even just the smell with everything right now, I'm like nauseous. Support in the Sioux, I don't want to say doesn't exist because it does. It just depends on who you're seeking it from, if the person is actually willing to help you, and if you know where to get that good help. Yeah, I don't know. This town is like hard sometimes to be in. Like, it's hard to be an addict in this town. It's hard to be young in this town. It's hard to be LGBTQ in this town. It's hard to be different in this town in general.
When you are being affected by the fentanyl, right? You're being affected by overdoses. How do you feel the community is responding to it? Do you think that...
I think it's not talked about. Like, obviously, like, you hear about the overdoses, right? But, like, that's it. Like, you got to post on Sioux Today and then it's overlooked. Like, it's like, oh, another one bites the dust almost. It's like the mentality of this town. And, like, I don't care. Like, as long as I'm doing what makes me happy at the end of the day and it's not affecting other people in a harmful way, I don't think I should be ashamed of doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Roughly
Grade 9.
grade 9, he started rebelling a lot.
I think there was a little bit in grade
Obviously.
8, but it was more subtle.
And looking back too,
Even grade 6 and 7, look at some of the stuff that happened.
no, but Josh was a good kid.
You try sympathizing, you try,
Love.
yeah, that's always there. And sometimes that don't even work. We try all kinds of things from disengaging.
When he did have a cell phone, take the cell phone away was my main one.
We can't afford to keep them. He loses them or breaks them, or
yeah.
We want him to have one.
Yes, so that we can keep in touch with him.
You know, an emergency notice, he can pick up that phone, or we can find him when he disappears, try to. And we've used that before. Like, the police have been involved in our life significantly. And
1 sec.
It's been a big help.
Sorry, Blue, I'm going to step on you. What?
You guys go downstairs.
Why?
I don't know. I'm just trying to let you guys have your moments. So anything I hear are pissing me off.
Well, sorry, but no, we're going to sit in the kitchen where we are.
I know everyone has a busy life, but we don't see any friends no more, and we don't socialize. We don't do anything. It's hard. We used to always have a lot of people around us.
I'm going to bed. I'm not coming out.
That's fine. Good night. Love you too.
You know, like, we haven't taken a vacation in 8 years. He's OD'd many times. He's tried suicide many times. We were driving down the highway and jumped out of a vehicle at 70 kilometers an hour. He's tried hanging himself. He's tried drug overdoses to kill himself.
He knows that he is loved, and he does know that no matter what, we're always going to be here and we're going to support him.
I think that's one of the reasons why he's still alive. Myself, we've come close to losing him many times. And it's hard. We wake up every day and well, I pray anyway that he's here tomorrow. I guess that it's hard on me. And I don't know, the guys at work, they don't seem to, I don't think they realize the amount of trauma a family is going through when that happens. I know everyone's got their own things going on at home that you try not to talk about, because sometimes it's, you know, it will be used against you. Even this documentary, there could be repercussions from it. I don't know. But it's something I'm willing to do because if it helps my son and other kids out there, families, it's worth it. I've seen my friends lose children. I've been at the hospital watching them suffer. And I don't even know if they're over it today because, of course, like anything else, it was an anniversary date today. And I feel for them. And that scares me because I've seen it happen. I think that's always in the back of my mind, that we know it's happened and we've seen it happen. And I'm tired. Love you.
With nowhere left to turn,
There is youth going around spray painting board on everything.
a young generation turns to the needle.
A lot of people think drug users are horrible people.
When W5 continues.
So, do you have any specific advice for me or anything I can specifically do to help you there?
We are here today, we're having this conversation because of the people that I work with who are using drugs are telling me that their community is not supporting them. And I think that's one of the reasons we're here, right? And our hospital is being inundated with these crisis calls and people overdosing and utilizing services that maybe they could use somewhere else. You know, it's not medical related, but there's nowhere for them to go. In our community in general, we don't really have a lot of public acknowledgement that there is a crisis. So when we are seeing spikes in overdoses or EMS is seeing higher rates of calls for overdose, it's really hard for us to plead a case that it's happening here when no one's talking about it.
Yeah, and I need you to help me figure out what that is and how I can support them.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason we're here is because on average, 40 to 50 people a month. And that's...
What's that stat?
Between 40 and 50 people.
Overdosing or being admitted for 40 or 50 people? And I have no reason to believe it isn't. That's the first time that's the first time I've heard that stat. Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that stat. So I think the question you're asking is the question you're asking why? Is that the case?
Just talking to different social workers and people involved on the ground, the overall consensus I'm hearing from people is there's not enough support.
This isn't to diminish the issue, but I in no means want to diminish the issue. This isn't an issue that's been raised with me significantly. So like a lot of the economic challenges that we have in the community have preoccupied a lot of our attentions. And I don't think that there's been an intentional effort not to talk about or address this issue. I just think that in the context of a number of the other things that have been addressed over the last couple of years or over the time that I've been the mayor, this one just hasn't surfaced to the same degree as some of those other ones have.
Yoo-hoo. Joshua, what's today?
25th.
What's today?
25th.
Yeah, and what is that?
Birthday.
Your birthday. Mm-hmm. Okay, get him up.
When I first started, our drug calls were a room full of kids on mushrooms or someone smoked too much pot and felt weird.
There was a huge thing 2 summers ago, I guess, where there was youth going around spray painting board on everything. And I guess their rationale was that they were trying to highlight that there was nothing to do in the city when they feel they need to take it to such a public platform to highlight that there's jack shit for them. I think that speaks volumes.
Don't get along.
It's really hard when you look at things and you see things from street level that don't make sense. It's almost like the whole city's depressed. There's not a lot of choice involved in addiction. You know, we don't get that. We don't have the same freedom as anybody else when you're out there using. I think we get forgotten about. I think having these little inspirational tidbits just by walking down the street, I think that's fantastic. I've done it myself, you know, like stickers on windows. It just said, be happy. Having something like this is just the start. We need more here. We need something for people to do, something to keep people entertained, something to keep people happy. We're just not happy anymore. And I think it's not about getting happy. It's about trying to be happy.
And in my dream, I wonder what it must be.
So I feel like an old man now? Do you really?
I'm halfway in my deathbed, can't you tell?
Halfway there?
Yeah.
I'm the crypt keeper. Yeah, if he's halfway to his death at 20, what am I at my age?
I feel like it. That's what I feel like.
Did you make a wish?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Secret though.
I know.
A lot of people think drug users are horrible people. We hate the world. We take from the world without thinking. We don't give back. That we have no morals or no heart or no feelings, which is not true. We are harder on ourselves than most people, I would say, because we know what we're doing is harmful to ourselves and the people we love, but we can't stop.
What a change in a year. Having everything that I lost coming back. And the other day I had it and it was like, I was walking down the street and I had Amber's hand in one hand and I had Tenzin's hand in the other. And I never would have had that. I think I nearly had to die to get reborn and stay happy. That's the sad thing, right? Is I'm one of the lucky ones.
I want to start going to school. I want to finish my grade 12. I want to be committed enough to know that if I have a goal, I can successfully achieve it.
Here, happy birthday. I didn't wrap it though, because I don't have a birthday wrap. All I got is Christmas wrapping in the...
Is this what you were hiding from me under your bed the day before?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were hiding something. On your birthday, son, just remembering all the special moments of your childhood.
Never have I
Days of exploring and imagining, and dreaming and becoming.
to the sky.
It's a joy thinking back to see the boy you used to be, but a greater joy thinking
Wait at your bedside. Sit through the cold night.
You know what? Every single patient that we attend to that's overdosed or whatever, someone's sister, brother, mother, son, you know, you could revive them that one last time where they may change their mind. They may go on the straight and narrow, you know. We just don't have that kind of follow-up to know the outcome of our patients.
Any guesses?
It's a phone.
Don't lose it. Don't drop it down any sewers. I'm not doing no more phones for you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I didn't even ask her a phone this time.
I know. Now, back to you having a phone again?
Back to calling.
You know, it's worth remembering that what we have just shown you from the Sioux is now being experienced in just about every community in Canada. Our previous documentaries on the opioid and fentanyl crisis have been among the most shared by you on social media. So if you'd like to share this one, you can do that by heading to our website, w5.ctvnews.ca, or our official W5 channel on YouTube. And Vice.com has just posted that documentary as well as other coverage of the opioid crisis. So on behalf of W5, I'm Kevin Newman. Thanks for sharing your time with us.
The opioid crisis is taking.
Well, as you can see, they are not being spared. This drug plague in Canada is just as bad there as here. You know, everywhere across North America is impacted by this opioid plague. But please tell me what you think about this documentary. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell twice. And also join me on Black Junction TV and blackspot.com. And if you can give a donation, please do on Patreon or through PayPal. Peace, family.